Здравствуйте, друзья! Мы продолжаем 14-й выпуск Android в лицах. Сегодня получится не совсем стандартный выпуск, потому что сегодня мы в гостях Фернандо, и мы будем говорить по-английски. Hi, Fernando.
Hello, how is it going?
It's
Good?
Good.
Yeah.
It's great to see you, and it's great to see you in our video blog. You are first English speaker.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to see you. It's a pleasure for me. Hello, everyone. Yeah.
Sorry for probably some not clear sound because it's full. It was some strange idea which we tried to create, and today,
Yeah, spontaneous.
yes, very spontaneous,
Which is nice.
Yes. So today we'll try to ask some interesting question for you, and probably first question was how is your look at clean architecture, and are you using clean architecture in your real production?
All right. So yeah, basically, I wrote about a clear architecture a few years ago, and my take is like the first thing I usually like to say is that there is no magical formula. There's no any architecture that is gonna solve all your problems. So that's why it depends on your requirements. You might use one architecture and the other, or another one. On Android, it works pretty well, generally speaking. But for instance, usually you have to evolve your code. You have to like really solve your own problems. When I created my sample of clean architecture, it was not meant to solve everyone's problem. It was just a different way of developing for Android. Uh, for more testability, and actually many people adopt it, and they're using it in production. In my projects, I'm not. It depends on the project, but like usually, for example, to give an example regarding SoundCloud, we are using a similar approach, but we needed to like modify it a little bit because it was not fitting our requirements. But we are still respecting all the solid principles and the essence of clean architecture. So I would say it's a nice solution, but always you need to adapt it to your requirements and needs.
Okay, cool. Your company, Soundcloud, you are using this architecture only on Android side, or probably iOS guys
Yes.
like it too?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about architecture, and my initial idea was that you can apply an architecture to any platform in the end. It's an architectural approach. It has nothing to do with Android, and that's why I always say it's nice to run away of any framework. So on iOS, for example, they are taking a similar approach again, and that's the good thing about this approach because you can reuse it everywhere. Like there was no implementation on mobile when I wrote those articles, but it was something that was working on backend and in other software platforms. So I would definitely say, yeah, it's portable. You can take it to one place or to the other.
Okay, you say so. You make some different for some improvement for clean architecture for
Yes.
your solution. What what about this difference, and why you do it? You have some problems or some?
No, I mean, there's special requirements. When I created this sample app, it was just a list of things. I mean, most of the time you have a specific requirements in our app. I mean, it's very complex in terms of multi-threading, and it has a background sync. So I haven't thought about that when I created this example because again, I cannot solve everyone's problems. I can give you an idea, and then from there you need to modify things and to adapt those things to your use cases. In our case, yes, mainly was because of multi-threading, and we have an offline mode, and we have a lot of data being synchronized in the background. So there are some places where you cannot use model view presenter, for example, at UI level because you don't have UI. For example, when you're using a service, when you're using a background syncer, and especially with multi-threadings in our player, we are launching 5 or 6 threads at the same time in parallel, and it was, you know, uh, one use case would not work pretty well because we needed to synchronize all the threads all together, and there were some specific things that we needed to touch. But overall, again, we are still using the essence of clean architecture. We have our domain layer, we have our use cases, we have our repository pattern, and we are using different data sources. Yeah.
I agree with you that it's a good solution, but probably it can be some other solution.
Yeah.
Probably you read about MVI from Hans Dorfman. What you
Mm.
can say about this solution? Do you like it?
I'm not aware of like the details of these approaches. Sometimes I read. It's like when people ask me about the MVVM. Uh, from my perspective, is I would say like just use whatever works for you. Again, there's no silver bullet, something that is going to solve everyone's problem. So um, for this approach, maybe the reason why he created was because it was a good fit for his problems, and then of course he shared it, and I probably got some feedback from the community. I don't have specific information on how that works, but for me the reason why I like MVPs is because everyone knows it. It's a very well-known pattern, and it's pretty easy to pick up. You will go to the code and you will see, oh, this is an MVP, and it's not any other, I don't know, pattern invented or something like that. And I can have whole control over my views and my presenters, and that's the main reason. And regarding MVVM, I don't personally like the way Google implemented it, because it encourages you to do a lot of configuration, and I kind of lose control of what's going on. So that's why I opted for MVP, basically. Yeah.
So you don't like data binding, correct?
No, it's not that. I mean, I like the pattern, but
Uh-huh.
I don't like the way it's implemented on Android,
Okay.
because it requires much configuration, and yeah.
What about other technologies, other libraries? What is your default stack in your
Yeah.
company?
All right, I would say like nowadays, of course, you need a dependency injection framework. It doesn't matter which one you use. Oh, there's a lot of noise there.
Sorry
No,
about it.
yeah. We are having fun anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but a dependency injection is a must. I couldn't imagine myself developing an Android app without RxJava. I think this to bring up this functional reactive programming approach, it makes things a lot easier, even though it requires some time in order to get up to speed, because the learning curve is a bit steep. And then yeah, it's your good architecture and your creativity and imagination.
Mhm. You say about good instruments, good libraries. What
Yes.
about Kotlin?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in favor of like modern languages like Kotlin and on iOS Swift. I think they're gonna save you a lot of time. I think they're mature enough to be used in production. It's been demonstrated by many companies using it at a bigger scale. And yeah, of course, why not? I think the good thing about Kotlin is that it interrupts perfectly with Java. So at any point you could introduce any Kotlin classes and it would work. Yeah.
It's a great idea, and I think it's great. It will be great question. You tried, and you was in many countries. You hear, you saw, and speak with many developers.
Yeah.
You can say that it is Kotlin popular in 18 countries in many in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the good thing is like Kotlin and these modern languages has learned a lot from other languages' mistakes. Like Kotlin has learned a lot from Java, and it brought up a lot of new functionalities, and it has like functions as first citizens, which is great. And it's really a pleasure when you write code in Kotlin. You can tell that you fall in love right away.
Cool. Uh, Can you say something about Soundcloud, maybe probably about your usual team or usual process, how you work?
So basically, at SoundCloud, I'm part of the core engineering team, which is about working on cross-cutting concerns, things that affect the whole application, like data layer, dependency injection, yeah, things like that. So lately, I haven't touched much Android. So usually, my day is like to review PRs, to attend to meetings, review emails, write code. But sometimes I have to jump to the mobile API because we are developing or we are maintaining the mobile API built in Scala and things like that. Working methodology is what I mentioned yesterday in my talk, which was uh, we use uh, we use what worked for us. It's not a pure agile methodology like Scrum or Kanban. It's like a mix, and yeah, we organize our teams in a core team. We have feature teams, and we have a tech lead, and we have a test engineering team. Basically, yeah.
It's interesting how you work with, or how much work in your company do business analytics. Do you have some this role?
Y- Yes, yeah, of course. I mean, there's people specialized
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in collecting data.
Mhm.
Everything must be anonymous. We don't know what you're doing as a user, but we can collect data in terms of general user behavior, and then that data is very useful to improve your app, right?
Mhm.
To get better at it in terms of usability, performance, yeah, whatever.
In the future, we will have some interesting solutions, interesting libraries, some which will solve some interesting problems. What do you think about which problems we have right now, and what was interesting and new solution, new libraries which you saw probably half year on right now?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen much about real-time monitoring for your app in terms of performance. Um, we are kind of working on something internally. We have our own monitoring system, which is Prometheus, and it's very famous in the entire community. I cannot tell you what's going to happen in the future because things move so fast. I think things are going to be around machine learning. I think there's a lot of investigation and research in that field, but not in mobile. So I think at some point that's going to become popular in mobile. But yeah, honestly, the community around software engineering, it's so big that it's, I mean, there's tons of libraries, and you have GitHub that is the biggest code base ever, and you can find pretty much everything. When you think that you have a good idea, then you go to GitHub and you find something that is already there working and being used by many people, right? So that's my thought on that.
It's interesting. Uh, Probably you you saw and you read about Kotlin native.
Well, I mean, I have only some information, but I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, that the idea is to kind of write native code in Kotlin,
Mhm.
right?
But no, yes, it's, you can use Kotlin
Yeah.
probably for code some
See.
application for iOS or for switch your C++ code to Kotlin.
Oh, okay. So it's gonna translate into
It
machine code like
Yeah, yeah,
C++,
yeah, 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 yeah,
right?
yeah. Probably yes. How you think about this idea? Probably will it will be great, or it will be good idea to start to use Kotlin as main language for iOS
I mean, I think,
in the team where you have Android team and iOS team.
well, I mean, it's very early to say that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but
of
it's
course.
just idea.
Yeah, so I would say, like, I mean, C++ has been there for a long time, and honestly, if you had to touch it, it's just like so tough and so difficult. Sometimes a lot of things happen that you don't know why. And by having modern languages like Kotlin, which, I told you, it's really a pleasure to write Kotlin code. um, I think it could be a game changer because it's the same. I think it's the same from Swift. Like, they are trying to, create some kind of Android runtime, and I think it doesn't matter. I think this is good for us because we have options. They are trying to come up with better solutions, and I think it's a very healthy, let's say, I wouldn't say competition, but it's a very healthy contribution to the ecosystem, right? So yeah, why not? I mean, I'm hopefully we're gonna see that up and running. Would be super nice.
I agree with you. But maybe you have some words to say for viewers or some idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, just guys, my advice is always like explore new technologies, be curious, learn out of experience. You have GitHub to learn from, read articles, share your knowledge because, when we speak or when we write articles, it's nice because we are sharing, but at the same time, we are learning. I mean, I learned a lot so far here because of the questions that people were asking me. And I would definitely say like go for it and don't be shy.
Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you
It was-
very much. Yeah.
It was Fernando Cejas.
Yeah. Nice.
Great, right?
Yeah. Perfect.
And just ask some questions and
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter. Usually I'm very active there.
Yeah.
So you can type my name and you're gonna come up with
we
the
will
Twitter
add
account.
link in description for this video.
Perfect.
And, yeah. Thank you
Perfect.
for your time. Bye.
Thank you very much. See you guys. Bye.